and I'm glad that my kids are sort of aware of what's happening, even though they're not in like the like adult centric, nitty gritty of it. Mostly because like they get to make their own choices now. Where like when I got into non-monogamy, I didn't think it was a choice. Like I fell backwards into it. I liked where I landed and I stayed there. But it wasn't something that I thought was like an actual thing people could do. I just, got lucky. Whereas now my kids can just make the decision. Like, you know what, maybe I want to do non-monogamy or maybe I don't. It's normalized to the point where they can make an active choice. And as long as they're happy and healthy and respected in their relationships, I'm happy with whatever that choice is.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 422. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have a great conversation with Kevin Patterson. We last talked to Kevin way back on episode 45 in January 2019.
Way back.
That's been a while.
It's been a little while.
Today, he shares an update on his life and relationships, and he also talks a bit about his latest book called For Hire, The Price of Fame, which came out in April of this year and is the fourth book in his For Hire series.
You may also recognize Kevin is the author of Love's Not Colorblind, Race and Representation in Polyamorous and Other Alternative Communities, which came out back in 2018. And he's also the creator of Poly Role Models, which was a weekly Tumblr page that told the poly origin stories of people from around the world, somewhat similar to this podcast. So if you're looking for even more stories from people exploring non-monogamy, please check out the link in the show notes for Poly Role Models. And a quick note, Poly Role Models is not being updated weekly any longer, but all of the content is still there, so you can definitely go check it out, and we highly recommend it. You can also check out Kevin's website, which is linked in the show notes as well, for links to all of Kevin's work.
For anyone who is a premium subscriber, we're going to jump right into the interview with Kevin now. And for anyone else, we do have a couple of announcements. First up, our premium subscription. If you're not familiar, it's a way to skip these announcements up front, but don't worry, you still get important dates of upcoming events in the outro. So therefore, it's a way to get ad-free listening, and new bonus content is coming in January for premium subscribers as well.
Yes, you are going to want to be a premium subscriber, so definitely check that out.
To sign up, go over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and scroll down on the homepage. You can sign up there for only $4 a month.
Next up, we want to tell you all about our next in-person event. That's coming up May 1st to the 3rd, 2026, just outside Orlando, Florida.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Emma's excited. I'm excited. Everybody's excited. It is called Relationship Recess. We have teamed up with the crew from Multi-Amory and a friend of ours, Gary Ware, who is a strategic play consultant, to bring you an entire weekend full of games, play, and exciting adventures. We would love to have you come and join us. Tickets are on sale now. You can head over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, click on the events tab, and there's another link there. Or you can just wait a second, and a pop-up will be in your face, and then you can follow the links there.
You can't miss it.
You cannot miss it. It'll be right in your face. So please check it out. We'd love to have you come and join us.
And just to be clear, this event is open to anyone. You do not need to be a member of our community or Multi-Amory's community. You just need to be you.
You just need to be you, open to the public. And speaking of communities, we lead a community full of over 300 people socializing and supporting one another every single day. We host our community on a platform called Mighty Networks. We have monthly community support, Zoom calls, monthly workshops, and in-person events as well, all for less than $8 a month. And you know what else, Emma?
What?
You get to get that premium subscription as well.
Included.
It's included. You get so much for less than $8 a month that you would be foolish to not come and join us. So do it. You can find out more information under the community tab of our website. Do it.
And I just wanted to shout out that our next monthly workshop is going to be January 15th. So mark your calendars now, because it's going to be a workshop with Marsha Budzinski on why you don't know what you want and how to find out.
So just a quick reminder, that workshop is free along with all of the other stuff we said for just $8 a month.
In the community.
In the community.
Yes.
Did we mention the community has workshop? Okay, we'll stop there.
Next up, we wanted to remind you all about our favorite way to get tested for STIs. It is stdcheck.com. This is the service that Finn and I use. We've been using it for years. We've been telling you about it for years.
And we absolutely love it.
It's fast and easy and very discreet as well. You can save $10 on your next 10-panel test, making it only $129 by using the links over on the resources tab of our website, and it supports the show. So thank you in advance for using those links.
Thank you from my side as well. And one final thing is just a reminder to please reach out to us, send us an email. We would love to hear from you. If you have any feedback, if you have any questions, or best of all, you would like to come on the show to share your story. That's how we do this podcast every week, is people like you reaching out to tell your stories. So do it. You can find that information under the Contact Us tab. Send us an email and we'll make it happen.
And with that, let's go and talk with Kevin.
Welcome back to the podcast, Kevin. It has been
a long time.
We've been able to catch up with some of our, less than 50 episodes recently, and so it's great to have you back on episode 45 from 2019. So yeah,
was your first episode.
Was your first one. So welcome back.
Wow. What a innocent time that was, 2019, compared to where we are now.
Yeah, we had no idea. We had no idea what was coming. Well, we're excited to have you back today, and would love, for anybody who hasn't quite caught up with episode 45 yet, maybe just a quick intro of
forgets.
That
was 6 years ago.
Who is Kevin?
My name is Kevin Patterson. For a long time, I ran the popular polyamory blog, Poly Role Models. I wrote the book Love's Not Colorblind: Race and Representation in Polyamorous and Other Communities. And since then, I've mostly been writing fiction, queer polyamorous superhero Johns.
Yeah, love it. And you've just put out some new work, correct?
Yeah. We just put out the fourth book in the For Hire series. It's called The Price of Fame, and I honestly think it's the best one. I kind of love it, but yeah, it's a labor of love, and this is my favorite one, my favorite entry out of the bunch.
Yeah, love it. That's super cool, because when we first talked to you back in 2019, the first For Hire Operator was just coming out.
Yeah. And I didn't really have as much direction with it as then. And to be honest with you, if you had told me, say, 14 months ago and said, "Hey, Kev, you're going to write another For Hire book," I would have been like, "I don't think I am going to write another For Hire book." But the inspiration just sort of struck, and I just locked in, and I ended up writing The Price of Fame in just under 5 months.
Wow.
And I'm knee deep in the next book in the series as well. So, I guess I needed to get away from everything that was happening in the world for a bit and just lock in somewhere I could control, somewhere where I could actually enjoy what life looks like.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe while we're on the topic, maybe just give us a little bit about what the For Hire series is about, if people are looking for, maybe a little bit of an escape from the craziness and to dive into some sort of queer non-monogamous writing.
Okay. So to wind it all the way back, I was writing Love's Not Colorblind, and I just got the idea that I needed to jump away for a bit, because a lot of the writing of Love's Not Colorblind was hard to deal with, just from a mental health standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So I jumped away and started writing this fiction universe. Now, when you go into fiction, if you watch Star Trek or whatever, they always sort of theorize this this identity utopia where no one thinks about being queer or trans or this race or that race, but they never really tell you exactly how you got there, and the story usually follows a cishet white guy anyway. So I wanted to write a universe that didn't quite do that. The universe in For Hire isn't sans oppression. It's light and depression, and also you see how we got to that place. We see that the superheroes of this universe actually take a stand. They're more than just saving the day. They're also standing for something in a way that actually affects society around them.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to write a superhero universe doing that. And then there's the other side of the coin, which are operators, which the first book is about, where operators are basically superhuman contractors that kind of do the legal dirty work, like if the Punisher accepted paychecks.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, yeah. I love the creativity.
Yeah, well, links are in the show notes, so please go grab a copy. And you
And there's
also,
four books.
yeah, yeah, and you have a Kickstarter going too for your next one. Is that
No,
correct?
no, no, no. We the last Kickstarter we had was going for or it was a Indiegogo, and we had it for the
Ah,
price of fame.
got it,
Um,
got it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
The one I'm currently working on is it's so into production. I don't even have a timeline on it.
got it.
Yeah.
All right, well, you heard it here first.
Yes. That it's coming. The next one is still coming.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that and for the work you do. And we'd love to maybe catch an update on what's been going on in your life, how relationships and all of that have shifted for you over.
Well, actually, before
Oh,
we talk about shifting, I'm curious if you can just maybe give a high level overview, of kind of where you were in a relationship in 2019, and kind of so then we can pick up from there.
To be honest with you, it's actually the same answer, which is kind of awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Like I live at home with my wife and my kids. And I've got three local partners that I see on a regular basis, and then like several comment relationships. But I'm in all of the longest relationships that I've ever been in, where like I've been with my wife 20 plus years, and like my other like more regular relationships are people I've been with for 6 and 7 and 8 years. So
wow.
it's yeah, since last time we spoke, I was sort of in a new place with those relationships, and now I'm more of a comfortable, settled down place with those relationships.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'd love to dig into that because I think, some of the stereotypes out there that, well, this non-monogamy thing, you're just jumping from person to person, you don't ever settle down, you don't commit, all of these sort of I mean inaccurate tropes. But to,
Yeah.
to talk to somebody who's, yeah, you're 6 7 years into multiple partnerships, 20 years into your marriage, like what, I would love to just kind of to talk about that, like almost like the stability of it.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes from having being really good about setting boundaries, being really good about setting expectations, and just trying to like meet people where they're at, where those relationships, like I said, like they were new to newer in 2019, whereas like at this point we've gone through a lot of ups, we've gone through a lot of down, people's life paths change, people have moved house, people have had kids, and just sort of understanding like, hey, you kind of gotta get in where you fit in a lot of ways, where like you just have to carve out the time that feels intentional to you to keep that connection fresh, or at least connected.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I'm assuming that there's been a lot of learning in that whole process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's had to be like in a couple of cases, I'm trying to figure out a way to say it. Like just sort of like the involvement level with
Yeah.
one relationship or another changes just because life changes.
Mhm.
Maybe someone has a different job, or maybe someone has a different partner, or just different priorities happen, and then next thing you know, your relationship that was hot and heavy like this is calmed down like that, or vice versa. So like just sort of figuring that out, and being sort of honest with yourself, honest with your person, and being communicative about what's going on, like the changing landscape, in a non-accusatory way, like it goes a long way.
Totally. Well,
Yeah.
and I love that you're saying this because, I think when we often look at monogamy world, the idea that maybe you're in an 8 year relationship, right? Those they have to be like growing. Like I feel, and not even necessarily in monogamy. I think this is just often what we see is, year one has to be more intense than year zero, year two, and it just like grows, grows, grows. But I love what you're describing, which is, maybe year five is less intense than year three, but year seven is more intense than year five. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
be a linear path in any direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there was there was a point where one of my partners was going through something and was just straight up like, Kevin, I'm gonna need time, and like it's not has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with us. It's just I need time by myself for an amount of time. Can you give me a month? Can you give me a month where we're not just talking? And I was like, you know what? We've been together for years. Like I can give up a month. I can find other things to do with my life for a month.
Right.
And that was just it. And that was years ago. And I don't even think about it. Like I think about that month as an example of a thing that happened, but it's never something that's had any long-term impact on our relationship. She had the time she needed to get her head straight and do whatever she needed to do. It actually ended up lasting a little bit more than a month. It was like, 5, 6 weeks.
Hmm.
But that was years ago, and we're all good. We just celebrated our anniversary a couple of like last month.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that makes me think of what you were saying about boundaries and just, I think, communication, right? That being able to tell somebody, this is what I'm going to do. And then you do it for the most part. And that doesn't mean it couldn't have been 3 months if they come back and check in and say, hey, I thought a month was what I needed, but it turns out I need a little bit more time.
Yeah,
But to not take that as I'm trying to get away from you or there's something wrong with you or with us, but like it's not about us sometimes. It's
yeah,
Yeah.
and being willing to have the conversation if it is.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it might be.
Exactly, it
Right.
it 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 could be like, "Hey, I need more time because I'm not sure that I need your energy," you know? And that can be a whole conversation, in a not again, in a non-accusatory way, like, a lot of times, like, our relationships break down because we try to make everything into, like, heroes and villains, like
Hmm.
like somebody
Yeah.
has to be the bad guy, and a lot of times it's just people's priorities move around.
Yeah, and there's an ebb and flow of life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
life happens, bro.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, and within that, I mean, you mentioned a few different things you navigated in the last few years, but these relationships also weathered the global pandemic that has, destruct caused a ton of disruption and destruction in our lives.
Yeah, and, like, I hate saying it like this because, like, because the pandemic is a universal bad thing,
Hmm.
it ended up helping those relationships for me because I was all over the place, like, leading into the pandemic, like, emotionally. I had a relationship that turned bad, and I didn't understand how bad it turned until, like, almost a year after it ended. Like, just a few things clicked into place, and I was like, "Oh, wait, no, this relationship was worse for my mental health than I even realized." And that was a whole thing. When the pandemic hit, everything shut down. Like no one was expecting me to go anywhere. No one was expecting me to do anything. I didn't have to get on a plane. I didn't have to go to a hotel to speak at a thing. And I could just lock in on the couple of things that were bringing me the most peace in my life. And that was those couple of relationships. And,
Yeah.
and obviously like my kids and such.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the pandemic, I think, forced us to get really clear, even if we
Granular.
didn't want to, right? To
Yeah.
how what can I keep and what has to go?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so like there was at least that level of peace and introspection happening while the world was burning.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm curious kinda has there been what does it look like coming like, since the lockdowns and since that, has there been other shifts that have been notable in yourself? In those, like, recognizing what is most important to you as we come back into the world?
I've gotten a lot better at canceling, and I've gotten a lot better at saying no to things that I wasn't sure about being, like just events, invitations, just requests in general. I got a lot better at just saying like, you know what, this isn't something that I'm gonna love doing. This isn't something that's gonna bring me more than it takes. And I don't know that the impact of this ask is worth the effort that I'd be putting into it. And I've gotten better at just saying no to stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a whole skill by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, especially
Yeah.
if you have a bit of that FOMO, don't wanna miss out on it, and yeah, can be hard.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm also curious too, Kevin, through this. I mean, you've mentioned a few times you have kids. Some of your partners also sounds like have kids. And I think the last time we talked, your kids were 6, 7 years younger than they are today. And you talked a little bit about how you sort of raise them in a home where lots of people are always around, and that's sort of been like how you were raised as well, even if it wasn't non-monogamous around you. But I'm curious what maybe that landscape has looked like over the last 5 or 6 years since we've chatted.
Yeah, that landscape is has been roughly the same as well, and mostly because it's the same player, so there's a continuity there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my kids are now teens and tweens.
Okay.
So like they're in their own world. They're doing their own thing. They've got their own social groups. They're their own people. So
Mm-hmm.
like they might say like, "Oh, hey, tell so and so I said hi," if they see me, heading out to see one partner or another, or they might make small talk with one of my partners if they're at my home at the same time. But for the most part, these are just other adults in my kids' lives, like, but not in any significant, like, none of my partners have any sort of like parenting role or authority role over my kids.
Sure.
Yeah, so for my kids are like these are just other adults that they know. Like they have contact information. They have their own separate conversations if they need to. But for the most part, it's just they know each other. They know each other. They like each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you touching on that. It can be so difficult for many people to navigate the children piece.
Yeah. And have you noticed as they've gotten older, I think when I don't know, this is my own not having kids brain, so I'm kind of curious. I think when they're younger, it's sort of my world is my sort of my family, and yeah, I have friends and I
Yeah,
go to school. But I think as you start to get older, you start to take on a little bit more of like maybe judgment from other kids, or you start to see that their family does things different. And I'm curious, have you noticed any of that with your kids as they've gotten older, that there's been like, hey, maybe we're doing it a little different than a lot of the other people in our network?
you know, that hasn't come up very much, and that's not to say that that isn't a real problem that real parents face.
Sure.
But the kind of like identity friendly environment that my wife and I have sort of fostered in our house,
Hmm.
our kids have sort of extended that to their friend groups, you
Yeah.
know? So like maybe the first time you're like, "Oh, hey, this is my dad's girlfriend," it's like a raised eyebrow.
Hmm.
But after that, it's like, okay, well, this is just another adult who comes by here sometimes,
Right.
And
Right.
Yeah.
because like I'm the dad that brings my kids to Pride every year, and so like they see they see queer identity, they see trans folks, they see what things look like outside of like a small scope. They're not really surprised by it. They're not really intrigued by it anymore. It's just old hat for them now.
It's just part of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that is how it plays out, right? That it doesn't get weirder, it gets more chill. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Like there are kinky folks who are in our household,
Mhm.
and my kids aren't gonna see any kinky shit.
Right.
But they're gonna see rope sitting around, they're gonna see, like, evidence of a fireplace sitting around, like, you might see, like, whatever little those fire batons are called. I'm not into fireplay, I don't know what they're called. They're gonna see that, they're gonna have some understanding that kink happens, but it's not happening in front of them.
Sure.
We keep everything age appropriate, but, like, they understand that these are things that happen, and they're not super surprised by it anymore, like,
Yeah.
and and I don't know if that's just our kids or if that's just their generation in general because like they're all on social media. They're all on TikTok. They're all, on Instagram. I I think a lot of what was shocking to my generation is just commonplace for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're exposed to so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a way that allows them to like understand it better. Like it's uh it's not just a minute video on TikTok. It could be like a 3-minute video that's actually an introspective deep dive on whatever the topic is. And now they're more educated than I've ever been. Good for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love, I mean, the name of our show says it all, but like, I love how normalized it seems like you and your partners have made non-monogamy for your kids. That, like, yeah, I don't know if it's all kids, but I think we have talked to people who said, yeah, that the generations that are coming up are much more just like, yeah, whatever, like, we get it. It doesn't, you don't have to explain it.
Yeah,
But that you're able to like live it for them.
Well, oftentimes they're exposed to it or at an early age, potentially too, even just through culture. It's becoming more and more, at least, an option.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, that my and I'm glad that my kids are sort of aware of what's happening, even though they're not in like the like adult centric, nitty gritty of it. Mostly because like they get to make their own choices now.
Mhm.
Where like when I got into non-monogamy, I didn't think it was a choice. Like I fell backwards into it. I liked where I landed and I stayed there. But it wasn't something that I thought was like an actual thing people could do. I just, got lucky. Whereas now my kids can just make the decision, like, you know what, maybe I want to do my non-monogamy, or maybe I don't. It's normalized to the point where they can make an active choice, and as long as they're happy and healthy and respected in their relationships, I'm happy with whatever that choice is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that distinction, or even like your path of, like you kind of said, you fell backwards into it and then had to do the work to figure out almost sort of like, what is this? How is this? How did we do this? And that there's a lot more of that framework available to them.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, and I hope I'm not overstating it, but, like, a lot of, like, my first 5 to 10 years of non-monogamy, I felt like I was, like, building the track in front of me,
Yep. Yeah.
and just, like, trying to read every book and listen to every podcast, and now my kids can just they saw their dad do it. They saw their mom do it
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
make it work,
Yeah.
and they get to decide whether or not that's the life they even want.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if your kids are comfortable at this point because they're teenagers and going through all that, but they can also come to you and talk about things.
I love that I have a relationship where my kids can just come up and talk to me about stuff. 'Cause I didn't have that. I didn't really feel like I had that with my folks. Maybe a little with my mom, definitely not with my dad, but I love that my kids can just say like, "Hey, I've got a weird question," or I recently learned that my kids' friends consider me the safe dad. And, like, I almost cried when they said it to me. It was, like, a month or 2 ago. They were like, "Oh, yeah, you're, like, you're the safe dad amongst our friend group." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Thank you for that." And then I went to a room to kinda, choke up.
Yeah. Sure. That,
Yeah.
what an honor.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, you just touched on it, right? That like you were building you were laying the track down, sort of as your locomotive was going over it, in some ways. And I I think that is something that you said. Like, I don't want to overstate it, but I think it can't be overstated how hard that is to be. You're sort of blazing the trail, making mistakes, and then having to figure out how do we right the ship, keep it going. Like, that's a lot to untangle, all while you're learning something brand new that involves so many other people.
Yeah. And, like, I like, when my wife and I first, opened up our relationship, well, not like yeah, when we were in that first, like, year or so, I felt like I had unlocked something I shouldn't have been able to unlock. And
Mhm.
all of my energy went into protecting that thing. Like, I didn't wanna make any mistakes that jeopardize my place here, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Whereas, like, if I don't wanna get kicked out of paradise by accident, I'm gonna work really, really hard at this. And still mistakes were made, lots of them, and, like, some of them, like, almost completely devastating. But there was always a respect there. There was always an honesty there. There was always a willingness to communicate there that helped both of our journeys, my wife and I, and then, ultimately whoever else we're trying to be with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it takes everybody in the system to sometimes step back and be like, "Okay, yeah, you messed up, I messed whatever, whoever messed up," but also to be like, "But this shit's really hard. This
Yeah.
It's hard, and there's not great examples for us necessarily."
Yeah. And I'll say it like this: it is hard, but it's not as hard as the monogamous folks will have you believe. Like it,
Totally.
like they're it's not that. It's not super complicated. Once you get into a rhythm, it's actually pretty chill. Like
Yeah.
it's difficult from like an emotional standpoint and everything like that, but like just as like the logistics of it, like you can find a rhythm.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm curious for you, what maybe was one of those rhythms or one of those things that you look at where people often say, "Well, this piece is really tough," or "This is hard," or "How could you possibly," or even you and your partners were swimming in it being like, "This shit is hard," but then you kinda hit, like, maybe a breakthrough of some kind.
Um, I think like the very first thing that my wife and I established that ended up being really really useful because we had young kids at the time was just someone's home with the kids, you know,
Mhm.
and like even though our kids are pretty independent and self governed teenagers, we still mostly abide by that, you know, where just someone's home if someone's out. That just that simple made everything work so much smoother because someone say, "Hey, like, hey, Kev, you want to go out on Wednesday?" I'd look at the calendar. Wednesday's booked. She's out. Sorry, Wednesday's not free for me. I'm at home.
Yeah.
Would you like to come over? And then just navigating it from that standpoint, first come, first serve on whatever day of the week, just navigating that made everything else so much easier. Like, and for the most part, that's something that still stands, like, 10, 15, 20 years down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I was to say, which actually leads me to a kind of a related question around how you navigate like a nesting partner and your wife and also other people. So the hot topic of hierarchy, right? And everyone
What? People don't like to talk about hierarchy. What?
everyone having lots of opinions on this. I'm curious for you, like how you navigate it.
So because my wife is my wife, because we're married and we have like mortgage and kids and have to make like health insurance instruction decisions. There's like a section of my life that is just ours, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like everything else is just sort of fair game. Like my wife can't tell me about what I can and can't do in my relationships. I can't tell her what to do in her relationships. You know, th- we we don't interact in that way. Like, there's nothing that I'm gonna reserve for me that she can't do elsewhere or vice versa. Our relationships are just like independent of one another. So like there is like a life hierarchy in terms of like this is my house and I have to manage my house with the person who I live with, but
Mhm.
everything else is its own unique organism.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
No, I love that, and I think that, like, that example feels like a really good one because I think this is where people can often hear, well, yeah, somebody says, "Hey, Kevin, do you wanna go out on Wednesday?" And you look at the calendar and be like, I can't. I gotta be home with the kids. My wife's going out." And we've seen it online, right? People are like, "Well, hierarchy, look at that. You're not allowed to do it. Your wife says you can't." And all of these things start to blow up, and it's like it's not even really a hierarchy thing. It's just this is it could you could replace I can't come out because I gotta stay home with I've got a big work thing going on. Like it doesn't like it's our life and it's what's going on in it. And I think it's how do we communicate that to people and how do we yeah, not show up with the, like, she says I can't go out. That's a
Yeah.
different thing than, "No, I wanna be home with my kids."
And I think it's also about setting expectations.
Yeah. What I was saying was you got to come from a place of being respectful of your partner's other partnerships. Like that's something that I always try to prioritize. Like I want to be respectful of like my partner's other like I don't want to impact what they've got going on. If my wife is like, "Hey Kev, I know you've got such and such a thing going on the calendar, but I've got something else going on that can only be handled that day." I'm going to consider what's going on there. Like I'm not just going to be like, "Nope, that's my day. You got to get out of here." I'm going to, hear it out, see what can be moved around, just so that like everybody is getting what they need out of their relationships. if like one of my partners is having an issue with their, with one of their other people, I'm not gonna like tell them to shit can the whole thing. I'm gonna be really sensitive to what's going on. I'm gonna try to not make any comparisons. Mostly, I'm just gonna try to be a sounding board in case that's what somebody needs. Like I try not to weigh in a whole lot unless there's something like extreme happening.
Mhm.
Like I'm always trying to be super respectful of my partner's other partnerships, and like I think that goes a long way. Like just having that as a motivator for your decisions, as opposed to like these are my rivals, like these are my people's other people. We're all on the team.
Yeah. Yeah, such a powerful reframe, right? Because I mean, actually, one of the things you mentioned in our last interview was how we're taught. I think, especially as men, that other men are your competition. They're the maybe not the enemy, but you are up against them rather than how do we all show up together to make this ecosystem work so that I feel great, you feel great, our mutual partners feel great, and nobody's life is imploding by being in this relationship.
Yeah. And like that's just how I try. Like I try to view my partner's other partners as people who also want the best for this person, you
Mhm.
know? And if at some point I feel like otherwise about this, like it's a concern I might raise once and then leave the topic alone altogether. But like I had a one of my partners was in a bad living situation a few years ago. And I saw it sort of spiraling, and I knew they didn't have like sort of the means to get out of that situation. But then a new job pops up and the means opened up. And I had this whole game plan in my head of like, okay, I'm gonna broach the topic of them getting out of that situation. And I had a whole script in my head. I had a whole timeline on when to do it. And about like 3 days before I was gonna do it, they brought up the topic, and I was like, and they were like, "You know what? I need to get out of that situation now." And I was like, "Cool. I'm glad you said it because I felt really tense about saying it because I didn't wanna have like a whole lot of impact on your other relationships, if I bring it up, it looks like I'm trying to affect your relationships as
Mhm.
like I don't want it to be me versus a person. I want it to be me versus a problem, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always a hard way to broach that topic when the problem is potentially the people.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you just have to be careful to be be there for your partners and for people in your life. And also when you're worried about them, potentially sharing some of that, but knowing when to do that. It's not easy.
Yeah, yeah. And like had it been a more dire situation, I would have moved a lot faster.
Yeah.
Thankfully it wasn't so dire that it needed like immediate intervention, but like the topic had to be broached and I had to figure it out because I always want to be like I always want to be respectful of what's going on in my partner's lives in a way where I'm not trying to make any of their decisions for them.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I would just share too, like this is a thing that is coming up. It has come up a lot, even in our partnership. Even if we took away all of the other partners, I think, Emma and I grew up in such a way. Well, we almost grew up, we did grow up together. We've known each other since we were 12. And so we have a lot of stuff where we've been like very enmeshed and we're trying to figure out how do we just be there and support each other when we see the other person going through something hard without fixing it. And I just, when you're sharing that, like the amount of like, you wrote the script, you had the script, you probably rehearsed it a million times. And how am I going to say it? When am I going to say it? And it's all like because you want to show somebody you care, you don't want to see them continue to hurt, but you also don't want them to be like, oh, doing like you don't want to be controlling their life at the same time. Like it's such a, I find it for myself a tough needle to thread.
Yeah. Myself and Dr. Liz Powell, we taught a class called "Unfuck Your Polyamory" around the start of the pandemic,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and I used as an example. There was a point where my wife would work herself to the point, like like doing kink stuff. My wife ties people up. She's pretty awesome at it. She would overwork herself to the point where like she couldn't move her hands the next day.
Wow.
And myself and one of her other partners, like we could spot it coming, you know. So a lot of times we would act sort of as chaperones, like, hey, you know, let's make sure she doesn't do too much tonight. Let's make sure she doesn't, you know, overdo it tonight. You know, she'd be tying somebody up. She'd be finishing up her work, and next thing you know, she'd be in her pajamas, holding a bottle of water, resting for the rest of the night because me and other partner, we sort of coordinated around her care,
Hmm.
and that's the way we saw that. I brought that up in one of the classes that I taught with Dr. Liz, and someone called it manipulative. And now it's like, all right, well, now we had to like reframe where, you know, we had to think long and hard about that. Like there's so many ways that we can, you know, reframe care as a problem or rephrase a problem as care. And just you have to be mindful of the way you're like, you know, framing your relationships and like, you know, framing your problems and so on. Like there's a way to make a negative sort of out of everything, or
Mhm.
there's a way to make a positive out of something. And you kind of have to keep that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious with that example, like you said that so you and this other partner sort of approached like how do we care for her? And
Yeah.
this other the person in the class was seeing that as you were sort of like
Are you taking
man,
away her
take
autonomy?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you know? Whereas the person involved, my wife, like, you know, she took it as care because, like, she knows that she'll overdo it. If somebody's not, like, keeping an eye on her, somebody's not looking after her, she knows that she has the potential to overdo it and then be really upset with herself the next day, you know? So she appreciated us jumping in. Whereas someone else was able to say, like, "Hey, I don't know that that's something I would be receptive to."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but
Which
that's the
which
conversation you gotta have.
exactly. That's what it comes down to is talking about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
talking with the person like, "Hey, this is a thing I've been seeing. How can I best support you in it?" "Oh, well, you can kinda do this, remind me." I could use the reminder rather than we're just doing it for them without them even knowing or almost consenting to it.
Word, exactly that.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
I love that.
Mhm.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
I'm curious too, moving back a little bit to like your work as well. How has your this writing fiction influenced you in your relationships? Has it?
With my relationships, not so much. I think part of, what does impact is that, like, there are times where, if you've ever heard someone say that every character is, like, a version of the author?
Mhm, mhm.
Yes.
You know, like there are times where like I'm drawing from, you know, where I'm, you know, where I'm intentionally drawing from like a real feeling that I had or a real interaction that I had, you know, but there, you know, but there, and that's fine. The difficult parts are when I realize after the fact that I was writing towards a real feeling that I had and it wasn't like an intentional choice, you know, it's like, "Oh, wait," you know, like, there are points, where it's like, "Oh, wait, no, that was what that argument was about." And I didn't realize it until I saw the characters doing it, you know?
Yep.
But other than that, like, my writing's only impacted, like, my relationships in that there have been times where I've been, like, really locked in on a concept or really locked in on just something and said, like, "Hey, look, I'm gonna have to cancel everything I wanted to do this week. You know, is that okay? Can I make up that time with you? Can you know, is there anything you need for love and support in the meantime?" And then, you know, proceed to lock in.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. No, it makes sense. Well, and I'm curious on that sort of same thread. How do you navigate the timing with it? I mean, you've talked a little bit about calendaring, and I'm just curious, like on the day to day or on the weekly, right? Navigating multiple kids, multiple partners, life, jobs, all of that. Like that's also a lot to balance.
I mean, for the most part, like, there are like, my three local partners who I'm like the like most like enmeshed with. Each of them has a day. Each of them has a day of the week on the calendar,
Hmm.
and we try to alternate between me going to see them and them coming to see me, just so that like I'm not taking up so many days out that my wife can't, go out and do her own thing. Her
Mhm.
partners have a day on the calendar. We each make sure that we're really respectful of like what kind of time we need. Like if there's something that I need to go do and it's my wife's night on the calendar, she's off going to see somebody, she's really good about making sure that like I have the time to do what I need to do and then she has the time to do what she needs to do.
Mhm.
Last year one of my partners had a kid and I was like on site support, me and their husband were basically alternating sleeping in shifts to make sure that our shared partner had like all the care that they needed. For that whole time though, my wife was just home with the kids. And I let her know like up front, like, hey, I'm gonna need this amount of time, because like just going into this stretch of time, we don't know when the labor is gonna happen. And then once the labor actually happened, is like I don't know when I'm gonna be home. And each time my wife was like, "Of course, do what you need to do." I would do you would be this respectful and considerate of me in the same kind of medical situation.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and knowing that it's, that's a limited time. I mean, of course, there's other things that happen, but the intensity of the birth and the first little bit after that is not forever.
Yeah, like if you can't make time and consideration for a medical emergency, what are you even doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and to be able to support our partners through that, and to know too that there's like it's cyclical. Like this time you needed it, and there might be a time in the future where she needs that. And like,
Yeah.
how do we just keep showing up like that?
Yeah, like there are times where she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna be, out of town for X amount of days for whatever event she's going to." And it's like, yeah, cool. I hold down the fort. If one of my partners wants to come see me, they can. Otherwise, it's just me hanging out with my kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. One
So a
of
lot of planning and a lot of calendaring and a lot of conversation.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Like we try to keep each other pretty in the loop about what's going on away from our own relationship.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the, I guess similar on the same thread, one of the things we talked about in the last conversation too was you were doing a lot of community building work, hosting events, getting people together, really sort of building up, especially like the BIPOC participation and presence in the Philly sort of polyamory and non-monogamy community. And I'm just curious how community looks for you today. Like how involved are you, and are you still sort of building and creating events and bringing people together?
I'm actually not super involved. Event like around that same time 2019, 2020, like going into the pandemic,
Hmm.
like I said, like earlier, like emotionally I was all over the place and I was sort of withdrawing from community,
Yeah.
Mhm.
where at the same time like other folks who were good at their jobs, other folks who were good at managing communities sort of stepped up and took into place. I've been sort of out of the loop for the most part. And then, the pandemic broke up a lot of the event spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like while every once in a while I'll, show my face at a mixer or, pop up at a potluck or, something like that. I'm not super involved these days, but also I'm in a really settled space where a lot of community events sort of double it in as like dating spaces, and I haven't really been doing a whole lot of that outside of like my established core set of relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you found yourself in a settled place that there's not as much need.
Yeah, yeah, exactly that. Like and I still respect it. Like I love those community spaces and discussion groups and that sort of thing, and they have their place. But like I've just gotten sort of older than it. Like I'm not the same. I ended up going to a play party recently, and it was and I know it as a community space. Like I know it as like a space where like when I was going to the earlier iterations of that same play party, these are all folks that I knew from, kink and polyamory spaces. And then I went there and everything felt so much younger. Everything felt so much newer. Everyone seemed so much less familiar that like while I was able to like engage with the person that I brought to that space, you know, I don't know that I'm gonna end up going back because like so much of it has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting just thread there because I think, just throwing this out there, I think a lot of times people who show up to play parties or these spaces and they see other people connecting, hooking up, whatever it is, I think it can be easy to think, oh, well, they just met tonight and jumped right in. But I think
Yeah.
what you're pointing out is what it really takes is the foundation, the groundwork of coming to events over and over and over. You build the community. And then when you show up at a play party, there's 10 or 15 people from your community there. And that's often who I think winds up
Yes.
having the good time, not, oh, I met this random person tonight when I walked in the door.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. Like I said, this was an event that I had frequented like several times in the past, and I
Mhm.
was used to seeing like a lot of familiar faces and engaging with a lot of familiar faces and going there and finding myself as like as a new guy. That was a lot to deal with. But also, it was really great seeing that the event was still thriving and still doing really well and still bringing in like an awesome group of people. It's just I don't feel like I want to start all over in that community.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a small amount of work to
No.
show up and build connections and show up again and again. Like it takes time to
Yeah.
build
Yeah,
that foundation.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. And so yeah, no, we've just had a great time catching up today, Kevin. And I want to say too, like, highly encourage people to go back and listen to your first episode. We were listening to it the other night, and I was blown away at. I mean, for us being so new to it, like it was a really great conversation. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Like, thank you for carrying that.
Yes.
Hey,
6 years ago when we did it, but
Yes.
hey, I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
yeah, and where can people find your work? Again, Poly Role Models is still out there live on the internet, correct?
Yeah, I haven't looked at it in quite some time, but it still exists on Tumblr, I believe.
It does.
It
I found it yesterday.
Oh wow, you're the one.
Yes, exactly.
But I'm at kevinapatterson.com. I'm Poly Role Models all over social media. The books Love's Not Colorblind, and the For Hire series, those are all available. Wherever what the paperbacks are only available on Amazon because we had to publish them through Amazon. But
Gotcha.
everything else, the ebooks and the audiobooks are available elsewhere.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, we'll throw links in the show notes for those. And
Yeah. Is
yeah.
there anything else you wanted to get out there before we let you go today?
Um, Go check out The Price of Fame. The Price of Fame, it's the best one. I love it so much. Like I generally enjoy my For Hire books, but like I get jazzed up whenever I think about The Price of Fame because I really enjoyed it.
Can
Like
people read that one without the other three?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I we wrote them all as we wrote them as not quite self-contained stories. Like they have their own individual narratives that are good from start to finish, but they do tie in. There is a continuity there. There is, there are characters that repeat around. So they're better as taken as a whole, but you can read them solo without feeling like you lost a whole lot.
Okay.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, one
Yeah.
more time, go check out the books. And thank you, Kevin, for, again, for being here, for sharing with us, and for all the work you've done to help normalize non-monogamy, polyamory, and all of this that we're doing.
Yes.
Wow. Just the way you said that, like, wow, like I've had an impact. That's pretty awesome.
Hell yeah.
Hell yes.
It is sometimes difficult to step back and be like, oh shit, yeah, for the last decade or so, I've been influencing this community, putting out work. People are finding it.
And we have had
Yeah.
many people reference your work over the
Totally.
years in the episodes too.
Totally.
Hey, thank you. Yeah. So like I don't know how many degrees, but if the ships move, I had my hands in that somewhere.
That's right.
Yes.
It takes all of us. So
Yes.
thank you
Yeah,
for,
without a
for being
doubt.
part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are a community.
We
That
are.
is for sure. For sure. Well, thank you again, Kevin, and have a lovely afternoon and have a good weekend.
Until
Hey.
next time.
Yeah.
Until next time. See you in 6 years.
Yeah.
Or maybe sooner.
We'll
Maybe
see.
sooner this time.
Yeah, hopefully sooner than that. Hey, take it easy.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on and sharing an update on your story. It was so wonderful to talk with you 6 years later. Maybe next time we'll have to do it a little sooner.
Yeah, that's our commitment. We're not going to wait 6 years to do the next one. So thank you from my side as well, Kevin. And thank you for all of the incredible work you put out into the world. A quick reminder, links to all of Kevin's books and his work with poly role models are in the podcast show notes. Definitely go check it out and support Kevin and the incredible work he does.
A quick reminder to go grab your tickets for our next in-person retreat, May 1st to 3rd, 2026. It's called Relationship Recess outside Orlando, Florida. We would love to have you come join us. Again, more information over on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the events tab.
Yeah, tickets are on sale now. Grab yours and we'll see you in May.
And next week, we have another interview for you. This one is going to be with Megan. We're super excited about this one, too.
It's a wonderful conversation, a ton of fun, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.